Hello and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia, Makina's route. In the last episode, we discovered what exactly happened during Makina's kidnapping and the murder of her father before her eyes. So let's continue. I should also say that chances are things will get rather grim. They were last time, and having played through this once already, twice actually, I know things are going to get worse. So brace yourself for that, and you have now been warned. I haven't spent much time in any halfway normal school, so I can't really call myself an authority on the subject, but the thing called homework is truly a pain in the ass. Even when exams are approaching and you know you have to buckle down, you find yourself making more progress on cleaning your room than reading your textbooks, reflexively seeking out any possible distraction from reality. Some people handle it better than others, but in general, nobody's at their best when forced to confront something troublesome. Just facing up to an arduous pile of problems requires some real willpower. At present, Makina is the homework I need to confront. And due to the truly enormous scope of the problem, using youthful energy to force my way to a solution hasn't gone so smoothly. There's been a lot of unproductive agonizing going on. Of course, considering the imminent danger, it's clear that taking immediate action would be best. If I've got the time to procrastinate using my daily running routine as a pretext, it'd probably be better spent charging into the Irisu home with a dagger in my hand and at least trying to do my duty. However, we are dealing with a conglomerate strongly tied to the nation itself. No matter how fiercely a single mutt barks and snarls outside the gate, they're not exactly going to shake in their shoes. And even if, by some chance, the world were to tilt in an unexpected direction, how could we hope to compensate society for the resulting damage? No matter how hard I think, the answers don't come. It's easy enough to boast that you'll stick to your guns and no matter who tries to push you around, but the simple fact is that fighting the power almost never ends badly for the power in question. Hell, if one individual's stubborn resistance were enough to frustrate those entrusted with authority, the way of the world would change fundamentally, and not necessarily for the better. In the end, I'm not much more than the country's pet dog, and the Irisu bear exceptional influence with my master. I can't even bear my fangs against them. But here's what it comes down to. I want to keep Makina safe, even if it cost me my life. I don't give a damn about the national interest. On a very simple personal level, Irisu Makina is my first and absolute priority. I love you, Makina, more than anything else in this world.
Where did that come all of a sudden?
I'm affirming my own feelings, that's all. The fact that I love you, that you're the one thing I should prioritize above all else. I was just speaking those thoughts out loud to see if they rang true.
Oh, and what were the results?
In terms of my personal feelings, there's nothing wrong with those words. Makina, you're definitely the most important thing to me in the world. However, as a wise man once said, there's no woman in the world more troublesome than your mother. It's a little hard to say this to her daughter, but I don't think it's possible to phrase this both gently and accurately. I'm going to be frank here. Your mom's a sociopathic bitch. And despite this long, convoluted attempt at an excuse, when you get right down to it, I'm afraid of her.
Well, that's... yeah, probably not something my own daughter would be saying, but... my mom's basically a nice little kid who never grew up. I could definitely understand being scared of her, you know?
To be honest, I don't have the strength to confront your family head on. Given that, there are only two possibilities. We can run and hide, or we can try to hold out and find a way to endure the one-sided abuse. To be honest, I can't bring myself to make that call. What do you want me to do? No, please, tell me what I should do, Makina.
I get where you're coming from, but I can't just tell you to do something that's going to screw up your whole life for my convenience.
I see. Yeah, guess that makes sense. Alright, in that case, let's get a third opinion. We can pretend like they're the ones who pushed us into this, then do whatever we want while blaming it on them. How does that sound?
Ooh, an extremely Japanese way of passing the buck. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go with that. You're a hella smart papa.
No matter how skilled a soldier you may be, when you're unsure of the next move, don't try to muddle through it alone. Consult your superior officer. Battles are won and lost on the big picture level of strategy. No one man on the ground can see the whole board. Blundering ahead blindly, guided only by emotions or values, is the kind of criminal stupidity that invites disaster. When I was very young, the person who looked down on the board from above was always my sister. If I did as she told me, I could at least avoid the worst case scenario, no matter what the situation. After my sister's death, the next person to watch the big picture for me was my master. But Asuko's advice tended to be a little heavier on the brute force approach, sometimes to the point of excess. JB was an indispensable counterweight, leaning heavily in the opposite direction. Asuko loved the high-risk, high-return play. JB strongly favored low-risk, low-return. Raised under their mutual guidance, I naturally began to weigh their opinions against each other, searching for the answer that felt correct for me. But today, Asuko's no longer around to offer me those staggeringly drastic plans that always left you wondering if she'd even thought about the consequences. Even if I could consult with JB about this, she'd without a doubt recommend looking for a way to maintain the status quo. But that's nothing more than the passive opinion of a woman focused on the way the winds are blowing. Should we give in or resist? To break this sort of deadlock, you really do need someone who can provide a big picture perspective. And you came to me, why exactly? Isn't it obvious? There aren't many people in this school even familiar with the circumstances, and despite the whole Neutral Observer Act, you're constantly giving us precise and timely advice. Maybe so, but what are you expecting me to do? I don't expect you to do anything. Hell, look at it as standing in for a coin flip. Just casually call out heads or tails if you want. You do understand the situation, right? Even if that's alright with you, the consequences are real. I can't assume responsibility for what happens to you two as the result of my casual decision. And I don't want to be left regretting it. Try asking someone else.
Come on, you don't have to be so cold. You know, we can't ask anyone else, you know?
Well, maybe, but look, I'm just not comfortable with this. I understand we're asking a lot, but if I had to make an analogy, faced with the approach of an overwhelming powerful American army, do you continue fighting down to the last soldier, or accept being branded as a coward, swallow your tears, and return to help lay the cornerstones of your nation's long, painful rebirth? Even if you consult the non-com who's taken over your platoon after the CO bit the dust, he'll just snarl, "The hell do I know? Make up your own damn mind," in response. If anything, you're better off making a field appointment in the absence of a true CO. Shout, "Corporal Kasami, you're the leader of this platoon," then give him a temporary promotion to second lieutenant. Your man can't help but stiffen his spine. However, even knowing full well that I'm being unreasonable, I want to ask you once more. What should I do, Commander Sakaki? Commander?
Please, Lieutenant, give us the word. Just one word. If you tell us to die, we'll hold out for this island for years, taking as many enemies as we can to hell with us.
Look, you two, this isn't a game, you know. The whole idea of leaving such an important decision to me is fundamentally a mistake. You two haven't mistaken me for some kind of all-knowing god, have you? So you're saying that if we remove a single character from the name Sakaki, you're left with the kanji for god?
Oh, touché!
Sakaki, my friend? No, my god. Tell us what we should do, I beseech you.
Here, I'll give you an offering. Grant as an oracle, Dios mío.
What the? Stop throwing coins at me. There are no atheists in foxholes, as they say. The opponent's far, far more powerful than us. That reality is clearer than the sight of the bombers soaring overhead on their way to devastate the mainland. How meaningful would it be to barricade ourselves away in this island? Is dying and becoming a patriotic spirit really the only righteous choice? But survival gained by turning tail and fleeing is a shameful thing. Anyone with a shred of compassion for those left behind couldn't accept such a selfish path. The only easy way to resolve this is by sending Makina home to her family immediately. But what awaits her there is death, in spirit if not in body. If I were to flee with Makina in tow, those left behind at this school might very well suffer the consequences as well. In the worst case scenario, there's no guarantee they won't be taken as hostages. I understand that I'm being tested here, but it seems I'm a hopeless loser who can't make his own decisions when push comes to shove. Please help me, Sakaki.
Yoshiko, how many times do I have to tell you not to randomly change the middle name letters?
Sorry about that. Kids these days feel the need to invent the slang for everything they see. Try to let it slide.
In the first place, you've already found your answer, haven't you? Why don't you just go ahead and do what you want? I mean, all you're really trying to do here is push the cleanup after the fact onto me. Why am I wrong?
You're not wrong. That's exactly how it is. I know we're being incredibly selfish. This might end up causing serious problems for you and the others, but even so, I want to protect Makina.
Would you mind if I stated my honest opinion?
Go ahead.
Although a certain degree of protection is provided within the grounds of this school, now that Irisu-san has become an active target, the reality is that we can no longer guarantee her safety, or even that of the other students around her. I'm hardly eager to throw at a friend who studied at my side all this time, but as a member of the family administering this school, I'm obligated to make an extremely painful decision. Irisu Makina-san, I'm going to arrange for your expulsion from this school. Expulsion?
In other words,
this isn't a suspension or a leave of absence. You will be expunged entirely from our register. Irisu Makina never attended this school, or so it will be made to appear.
I see.
Erasing every document with the name Irisu Makina on it is probably only prudent under the circumstances.
Which would mean me as well?
Yes, you as well. There never was a student by the name of Kasumi Yuuji here. That works for you, yes? I'll explain the situation to Principal Tachibana and the other girls. Yumi-chan.
Sorry for the hassle.
That's alright. I can't do much else for you two, after all.
Alright, Makina. Since that's decided, want to run away with me?
Yeah, let's run! To the ends of the earth or whatever. Sakagi's right, of course. Whatever I might have said, the truth is I'd already made up my mind. A snap of the Irisu's fingers is enough to leave people dead. They can't be persuaded or negotiated with. Staying here would leave me grinding my teeth impotently. If I curl into a ball and wait for the hurricane to pass, I'll ultimately be forced to kill Makina with my own hands. Given a choice between killing her and running away, I'd naturally choose the latter. But disappearing into the night without a word would be agonizing, knowing that those we're leaving behind might well face unjust suffering. I simply couldn't bring myself to do what had to be done. And now Sakagi's agreed to assume the role of protecting the school from the consequences of our actions.
Sakagi, thank you. Now I can run away with a clean conscience.
Yumi-chan, I'm grateful too. I'm simply driving out a pair of problem children. I haven't done a single thing worthy of your gratitude. But, well, if you manage to resolve everything, come back to the school. You may be expelled, but we'll be happy to consider readmission. Yumi-chan! Apparently overcome with emotion at Sakagi's unexpectedly warm words, Makina spreads out her arms like a little bird flapping its wings. Taking advantage of the momentary distraction this provides, she proceeds to barrel forwards into Sakagi's bosom. Wait. Closing to a grappling range with an exemplary slide dash before her target can even begin to evade, Makina twines her legs tightly around Sakagi's knees, cutting off any possibility of retreat. Thank you, Yumi-chan. I'll definitely come back here someday. Yes, fine, good. Now let go of me. So until then, take care of yourself, okay? Makina forces her lips against those of her immobilized prey, and the girl's not playing around either. From this passionate kiss, accompanied by the faint clacking of teeth against teeth, I sense something like the essence of female friendship. A profoundly moving spectacle brings a tear to my eye. After a while, Sakagi seemed to grow somewhat agitated, releasing her grasp on Makina to thump the girl's back like a martial artist signaling surrender. But the situation seems to be developing further. Sakagi's slapping against Makina's back becomes progressively weaker, and the muffled grunts leaking out of the corner of her mouth grow sweet in tone.
Looks like you've stepped up your game once again, Makina. Taking in this radiant scene of womanly affection, and noting with my approval the maturation of my favorite pupil, I fold my arms in front of my chest and nod deeply in satisfaction. Perhaps running out of breath at last, Makina releases Sakaki from her grasp and sucks down a great lungful of air.
Yumi-chan, I love ya!
What are you doing? Why did you kiss me?
Why? Thank you.
What? But why? We're both girls, right? Huh? Why did you put your tongue in?
Well, a little bonus?
I don't need that sort of thank you, let alone the bonus. Just get yourself out of this academy already. Hey, Sakaki. I hadn't managed to say goodbye yet.
We got chased away, you know. Why'd that girl get her knickers in a twist?
Don't ask me. Perhaps the effectiveness of your technique flustered her.
I was just trying to show a little gratitude. Did I screw up?
Who knows? She made a good show of being angry, but for all we know, she's gone off to pleasure herself to the memory. That does it! I've had about enough of you two. Not good. Run, Makina. As a blunt projectile shatters noisily against the floor behind us, Makina and I flee at a sprint. You know, Makina, we have to say goodbye to this school now. Are you really alright with that?
Yeah, I think it's best this way. You know, don't they say that pet cats tend to disappear all of a sudden, then when they're getting ready to die? It's probably the same for me. I want to just disappear like this out of nowhere, so everybody can look back and think, she sure was a noisy kid, or whatever happened to that dumb girl, or hope she's doing alright. That's how I want them all to talk about me after I'm gone.
It's fine, you won't die. I won't let you. There's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, thanks, Papa.
Now that we've decided to move, there's no reason to drag our feet. Sometimes a single minute's vacillation can prove fatal. Therefore, we're going to leave this place immediately. I'll give you 30 minutes. Attend to your affairs and gather your belongings within that time, then regroup here. Understood?
What? 30 minutes?
Better than 40 seconds, right? Gotta move on, the clock's already ticking.
Got it!
After watching the girl patter off upstairs, I begin my own preparations for the departure. That said, my personal luggage is pretty damn minimal. All I've got is a single oversized backpack I locked here from Yamanashi. And even that's only halfway unpacked. I won't be taking any of the additional household goods I have purchased after my arrival at the school, easy enough to buy new ones if they become necessary. The only things I really need for daily life in short term are my tableware and portable stove. Cramming those into my backpack takes all of 5 minutes. I paused briefly to debate over what I should do with some half-read books Sakaki lent me, but since I probably won't have many chances to come return them, it would be best to leave them here. If I really feel the need to finish reading one of them, I can just purchase my own copy. Well then. Since I've finished packing nice and early, I have some time to think about what comes next. When you're on the run, a city is the ideal choice. The more densely populated, the better. Human beings have a natural tendency to hide out in some quiet little rural town in the middle of nowhere, but that's a serious mistake. The only people who think the country is full of kind-hearted folk living tranquil lives are city dwellers who've never been there. In reality, your typical village is a den of insular, malicious and narrow-minded people full of petty pride and obsessed with appearances. The countryside's a hell of a lot scarier than a city. And naturally, it's all the more cold and hostile a place for a complete stranger the locals bear no social obligations or debts of gratitude to. When I was a kid, my mother and I learned that lesson the hard way. Anyway, if we're going to try and hide out somewhere, ideally it should be someplace neither Makina or I have even visited before. Few people being chased by their enemies take refuge in a place they are totally unfamiliar with. Pursuers naturally start by searching areas where the fugitive would have a home field advantage. If Mom and I had known that back in the day, our lives might have turned out slightly better than they did. The thought does inspire some bitterness, but there's not exactly anything to be done about that now. I can only shake my head firmly and put it out of my mind. So if we're running somewhere, I guess the city would be best. When you're hiding a tree, do it in a forest. It's always dark at the foot of the lighthouse. Yeah, there's reason those proverbs have been passed down all this time. People pour in and out constantly. The residents are apathetic enough not to glance over at the next toilet stall. That's the city for you. However, massive crowds do have their own downsides. Although it'll be harder to find us, it also becomes more difficult for us to notice the movements of our enemies. It wouldn't be so hard if we just had the competing factions within the issue to worry about, but I doubt we're going to get off that easy. My employer Ichigaya isn't going to sit back and let me leave, and if Akasaka's moves, there's a good possibility our friends in the NSA and the CSS might get involved as well. However, like the old joke goes, if you're in town on the weekend and notice a Caucasian in golf clothes, leather shoes, and a pair of sunglasses, assume they are CIA. In other words, there are certainly ways to recognize those sorts of people. A thoroughly trained agent in their element is obvious at a glance. You can tell a CIA man when he's standing, a CSS man when he's sitting, and an NSA man when he's walking. Considering the possibility of their involvement, it would probably be best to avoid yuppie-infested areas of the city where business suits are common, in favor of neighborhoods overflowing with flashy young people. A place where punk kids loiter around at all hours would be ideal. Anybody walking in as straight a line in that sort of crowd would stand out like a sore thumb. Well then, guess it's about time. I glanced back at the clock. Just about 25 minutes have passed since Makina and I split up. Heaving the rucksack containing everything I own onto my back, I leave my room and shut the door behind me. Huh? Yuuji? What's with the bag? You going somewhere? Yeah, I think you might have a rough idea of the circumstances already, but Makina is in some real danger right now. The two of us are going to be hiding out for a while. No kidding. You have some place to stay? Nope. Nothing like that. Even if we did, it wouldn't be a good idea to use it. Sounds kind of rough. Is there anything I can help with? Well, let's see. If you have any cash on your hand, a little farewell donation would be helpful. That's kind of sudden. Although Michiru grimaces a little, she nonetheless retrieves her wallet from her pouch and takes a look inside. Sorry, I've only got 2,000 yen on me. That's plenty. Thanks, I'll make careful use of it. By the way, Michiru. Yeah? What is it? You're not really acting all that surprised, are you? Well, I guess not. Yumiko sort of gave me a vague summary of what's going on. She said there's nothing we can do about this. In fact, the best way for us to help you two is by keeping out of it. Is that true? Yeah, exactly right. There's nothing you can do. If you stuck your head in anyway, you might well end up becoming collateral damage. However, as long as you're in this school, it seems Sakaki is going to keep you safe. You can just forget about us and go on living normally. When everything's cleaned up, you guys are gonna come back, right? I can't promise that, but I'll definitely try. It's not like I really care about you either way, but make sure you keep Makina safe, alright? It might not always be obvious, but I've got a real soft spot for that girl. Yeah, I'll promise you that. No matter what happened, I'll protect Makina above all else. You can trust me on this one. That was a lie. What? When I said I didn't care about you either way, I was lying. You better come back too, alright? Don't think I'm a particularly hard of hearing, but I didn't quite catch that. Mind repeating yourself one more time? Shut up already! Take that 2,000 yen just now. That wasn't a gift, it was a loan. Don't get the wrong idea, okay? So you better come back and repay me. You got that, do you? Well? Look, you don't have to scream. I can hear you fine. I get it. I mean, do you just want the 2,000 yen back right now, or what? Don't freaking give it back! What are you guys fighting about? Oh, hey there, Makina. Ready to leave? Yep, I returned my crawfish to the pond in the courtyard, and I got my bag packed and all. Wait, are you two leaving already? Yeah. Hold on, Makina. Is that all your luggage? What do you have in that bag? It's some snacks, my purse, and a change of panties. Panties? Huh? That's it? We can buy most of what we need on the road, and bringing extra stuff along is just gonna slow us down, you know. A wise attitude. I suppose Maki-chan is rather used to traveling light after her time in the hospital, yes? Sachi. Maki-chan, this is the apple seedling you entrusted me with earlier, but
I don't think I can accept it after all. Please take it with you.
But...
If you find a place where you can live in peace, why don't you plant it there? By the time it bears fruit, I'm sure everything will have been resolved, right?
I see. One of those seedling of hope deals.
Yes, I think it would be lovely if we could all eat those apples together someday with smiles on our faces, don't you?
Makina, why don't you take it?
Yeah, in that case, we're definitely going to eat those apples someday, okay? Yes, I'm looking forward to it already. Hey, wait, are you really going? Right now?
Not to worry, we'll meet again.
Yes, I will pray for your good fortune on the battlefield.
Hold it right there! Amane?
Hold your damn horses there, y'all. Amane. Makina, take this with you as well, the bread maker.
Huh? But is that really okay?
As long as you have this around, you can bake bread whenever you want, right?
That thing is going to be a bit of a burden.
Shut up! You're a guy, so a little extra luggage is no big deal, right? Just carry it for her.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right.
Also, here. It's just a bunch of leftovers, but I packed you a box lunch. Eat it on the road today, okay? It's got that pea stew with bamboo shoots and lotus roots you love so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Also, you left your cell in the room, Can't make any phone calls without it.
Oh, I left that out behind on purpose,
Huh? Why?
We're not going on a vacation, It'd be like carrying around a convenient little homing device wherever we go.
Right. Amane-san is a bit of a worrywart, isn't she?
Oh, but come on. Aren't you worried, Sachin?
No, I believe quite firmly that Kasami-san and Maki-chan will both return safely, you see.
Okay, so you believe, but it's not like there's any real proof of that, right?
That is certainly true. However, I have conveyed my absolute trust to the two of them. Isn't that enough?
What's that supposed to mean?
For example, if the two of them encounter a difficult situation and waver on the verge of giving up, perhaps remembering that someone is waiting trustingly for their return will give them the strength to go on. Perhaps you could call such blind faith irresponsible, but I think belief possesses its own indirect power.
Sachin.
You're strong, Sachi. Alright, I believe in you guys too, and wait patiently.
Well, I guess I could believe in you too, if you ask nicely. Yeah, I believe in you guys.
I'm sorry? Lately, Michiru-sama's sentences have a regrettable tendency to trail off into unintelligibility. Would you mind repeating yourself a little more loudly?
Jeez, I got it. You want me to shout? Fine. I believe in you too. They're good enough. Qa'Rajh actually managed a halfway decent Sundara. Man, never thought I'd live to see the day.
Indeed, human beings should live long lives full of happy surprises. Therefore, please promise me that you will return safely, Maki-chan and Kasami-san both.
But that's...
You don't need to be entirely sincere. I'd like to hear the words anyway, and I'd like you to bear in mind that there are people waiting here who believe in them.
Understood. We'll be back, Makina and I both.
Yes, and we'll be waiting. That's a promise, right? You're definitely coming back, okay?
Yeah, it's a promise.
That goes for you too, Makina. You better come back in one piece, got it?
Yeah, thanks, Qa'Rajh. Thanks, everybody. Let's go, Makina.
Yosh! With a forceful nod, Makina snaps her slipper-clad heels smartly together and squeezes her hands into fists. Standing at attention, she turns her gaze around the room, taking in the faces of her friends one by one.
Irisu, Makina, heading out. Take care of yourself, everybody.
Lowering her head about 10 degrees, the girl offers a salute worthy of a professional, then turns around and walks off without another word.
There's a possibility we'll never see any of them again. Are you really alright with this quick farewell?
Yeah, it's fine. I believe we're gonna see each other again too, We will come back again, right?
Yeah, that's right. Guaranteed.
In that case, what's the problem? Gotta say though, it's kind of a downer I didn't get to say goodbye to Yumi-chan.
Well, she's a bit of a special case, I suppose.
What do you mean?
Look up at the roof on the school.
Huh?
After briefly squinting up at the distant building, Makina retrieves the scope from her bag, then presses the rubber cup to her eye.
It's Yuuji, and she's looking this way. The heck is that girl doing up there?
Must be her way of sending us off. I see. So she went with this approach, huh? I was expecting something of the sort, although I pictured her leaning against the wall at the end of the platform, watching in silence as our train rolled away.
What's the point of acting all cool like that?
Don't say that. Pulls it off pretty well, doesn't she? Why don't you hit her with a little swagger of your own?
Well, I guess you're right. Catch you later, dear friend.
Wait, did you two really get along that well?
Come on, don't say that.
While our exit scene was a bit on the haphazard side, with this, Makina and I have taken our leave of Mihama Academy. We're not running away in defeat, but rather falling back to fight another day. Still, when I think rationally about the odds of us ever returning to this place, it's hard to help but feeling more than a little glum as well. But when I glanced down at Makina, expecting to find some form of sorrow distorting her face after our abrupt departure, I'm somewhat surprised to find she doesn't look particularly discouraged, let alone teary-eyed. If anything, her bright and optimistic expression reminds me of a young girl heading out to the zoo hand in hand with her father. That attitude's clearly only possible because of Makina's genuine trust in me, so I don't particularly feel the need to remind her this isn't a game. There's no need to share my burden with her. From this point on, things get a little murky. I've roughly decided that we'll be concealing ourselves within the city, but the specific area and the details of how we'll be getting there are still up in the air. In any case, we've only just taken the first step on our somewhat contradictory attempt at a bold and determined retreat. It's definitely nice that we're able to rush out of Mihama without leaving any ill will or regrets in our wake, but now we have to face the real problems. The first hurdle we need to clear is arranging a method of transportation. It wouldn't be that problematic if I was alone, but with Makina tagging along, it's the ancient wolf with a cup dilemma. The range we can reasonably expect to cover on foot is severely limited. I did consider asking Amanda to loan us a vehicle, but if at all possible, I don't want to risk dragging her into this. Material aiding and abetting would be more than enough to land her deep in hot water. In the first place, hurrying to a crowded place where we can blend in by zipping along all by ourselves on a conspicuous motorcycle would be the very definition of cart before the horse. And since we have nothing whatsoever in the way of support, it's painfully clear that avoiding the watchful gaze of the N system and street cameras will be a major challenge. Using public transportation such as buses and trains would be the ideal countermeasure, since the other passengers will become human shields and camouflage. Which leaves us with the thorny problem of slipping past the surveillance camped out around the train station. But the black motorcycle from the other day is nowhere to be found, and in its place... Hey, Makina, sorry, but can you head up to the platform first and wait for me?
But...
Don't worry, I'll be there soon, but if I don't show up within 30 minutes, head for the place written on this piece of paper. You can handle that, right? Don't make that face. I don't want to make you act on your own right off the bat either, but even I have a few obligations that I just can't walk away from. Here, I'll give you the money I scammed off of Michio earlier. Get yourself a boxed lunch while you wait or something.
Can I buy some ice cream too?
Ice cream comes after the meal. I'll buy it for you later, so just be patient.
That's a promise, okay?
Yup. Right where the surveillance operative's black motorcycle was parked the other day, there's an exceptionally eye-catching bright yellow sports car. There's only one person who'd be parking a gaudy thing like that around here. I'd like to have a little chat with you. Think you could spare the time? Not as if you're going to stop talking if I say no, right? Beginning the conversation with a heavy sigh and the words, I knew it'd come to this, JB cricks her neck back and forth in a familiar gesture of exasperation. Well, I'd more or less assumed she'd seen through me, and I'd been prepared for the possibility she'd get in touch somehow once we took action, but Have to admit, I didn't expect her to clear the area for a face-to-face meeting like this. Do you have somewhere to go? Not really, and even if I did, I couldn't exactly tell you about it, as you're well aware, JB. I like to think that I understand you almost as well as you understand me. You can't betray Grisaia, can you? What would a child like you know about anything? I know that you are incapable of sacrificing the large for the small. You believe in prioritizing the big picture, and you have lived by that principle all this time. If you chose to betray the organization for our sake here and now, all those small things you've sacrificed up to this point would have died in vain. You can't possibly do that. Even if you could, I wouldn't ask you to. This is pointless. Give it up. The two of you will just be disposed of sooner rather than later. But if you put your hands in the air here and now, I could have taken you into custody instead. And what happens then? You planning to re-educate me? Or maybe arrange a summary execution? Well, I'm just an unusually high-priced piece of disposable equipment, so I suppose that'd be fitting enough. But what happens to Makina? If we hand her over to a family, she'll be killed. Am I wrong? If I'm going to be put down in the end anyway, I'll use the rest of my life for Makina's sake. Calm down and think this over carefully. What on earth do you think you can accomplish alone? You do remember that this was a consensus decision between Akasaka and Grisaia, yes? Yeah, that's another thing I don't understand. Why go that far? We're talking about Makina here, you know. A perfectly commonplace, slightly dim-witted girl with somewhat awkward family circumstances. What meaning is there killing one insignificant woman like that? Why would the nation itself fixate on her like this? Sorry, you don't have to answer that. I've already openly declared my intention to become a traitor. Just by coming to meet me like this, JB's already placed herself in a significantly unfavorable position. And especially given that she's my direct superior and case officer, if the cards fall out badly, it's entirely plausible to imagine her being taken into custody herself. I thought leaving quietly would be an act of courtesy toward you. That way you could just be the dumb blonde who didn't see any of this coming. Tell me something, JB. If you knew what I was going to do, then why are you here? Well, let's see. I suppose I was imagining I might be able to persuade you if we talked face to face like this, indulging in wishful thinking, clearly. So you've given up on trying to persuade me? Would you turn yourself in if I offered to let you touch my breast? Let me think that one over. Worth a thought, eh? But not much more, I imagine. Your conclusion clearly isn't going to change. Not to say that you always stick to your initial goals, but once you really made up your mind about something, you never falter or give up. Did you inherit that obsessionary from your master, perhaps? I'd say I got it from my big sister, actually. Kazuki always said to live every day picturing myself 10 years in the future. And if I were to abandon the girl now, even in 10 years, I'd probably be a miserable piece of trash unable to even raise my head in front of Makina's grave. I won't take that path. Even if the alternative means losing your own life? Dying for the woman you fell in love with strikes me as a pretty damn good way to go. That's the self-centered nonsense of a man who hasn't considered how the woman left behind would feel. My master taught me, you're not a man until you find something that matters more to you than your own life. If you think you can make me agree to anything by using Asako as a shield, you are badly mistaken. Oh yeah? Well, if you think thrusting your breast out is going to make me listen, you're even more mistaken. Really? Then you'll pass on the breasts? I didn't say that. What an awful excuse for a conversation. I've halfway forgotten why I even came here. Go ahead, forget it entirely, then turn around and go home. You're awfully cold. Sorry. Don't apologize, I didn't come here to attack you. Well, you don't appear to be armed, so I suppose you won't be trying to convince me at gunpoint either, in which case I think we're done here. Nothing I say is going to do any good, is it? You've always been like this, you and Asako both. Still, I'm going to warn you one last time. Stop this foolishness. If you make a run for it now, both you and Makina will definitely die. If you're under the impression that the Irisu will give up, if the two of you run around in circles for a while, you've got another thing coming. What do you mean? This is information I gathered on my own, and the source isn't entirely reliable, but it seems that Irisu Makina called Irisu Kyoka the other night. That's... Right, the day the bakery was set on fire. After returning to the dorm in tears that night, Makina definitely said she was going to call her mother, although I never heard the details. In that conversation, Makina demanded to be left alone, then stated she would respond to any further meddling by exposing the Irisu's past corruption in full. Instead of pleading with her mother, the girl threatened her. I see. That would explain this abrupt assassination plan, wouldn't it? That's how it is. They pushed Irisu Masataka into an early grave to protect themselves, and now they're going to do the same to his daughter. You are familiar with Irisu Makina's talent for memorization, yes? Even now, it seems she clearly remembers the contents of certain documents that she happened to find in her father's study as a child. The girl apparently recited long passages to her mother over the phone, given specific figures, dates, and the names of businesses they were working with. Even the most perfunctory investigation would quickly produce evidence of massive fraud. As long as the girl's alive, they can't rest easy. Crippling information might leak at any time from any place. The Irisu clan decided to eliminate Makina out of simple fear. But how did that job ended up coming to me? Ichigaya, Akasaka, and even Kazumi Kaseki approved this assassination. I don't understand why. It's not so complicated. The Irisu clan's power is just as deeply rooted in the public sector as the private. No one's going to gain anything by opposing them. Friendship's one thing, but your wallet's another, huh? Makes me want to vomit. In the first place, since you know our secrets, we can't let you live. Are these people capitalists or gangsters? I mean, I'm not completely naive about the workings of the world. If you ask me to name a few righteous, ethically sound organizations, all I could do is stand there scratching my head like an idiot. I understand how things are. But an organization that kills children to prop itself up, that's one thing I don't even want to understand. An organization that needs to go that far to keep itself standing should just collapse. Are you saying you'll bring down the Irisu alone? Impossible. At this rate, we'll have no choice but to erase you as well. I knew that from the start. If you can't live without taking human lives, then take them. Those are just the rules of the game. Nothing to trouble your conscience over. But if you're coming to take someone's life, go in prepared to lose your own instead. I won't hesitate to kill. Oh? Are you really capable of that? Wrong question. It's the only thing I'm capable of. There's nothing else I can do to help her. Maybe that makes me a bad guy. But even so, I've made my decision. For Makina's sake, I'll sink as low as I have to. However many of you send, I'll kill them. I'll kill them all. I'll keep on killing for years on end, if need be. Even if they send you, JB. What an ugly glare. It's like all the light's draining out of your eyes. It's the same look you had in your eyes lying in that hospital bed with the day I met you. Well, maybe this is just my true nature. Don't resist orders from above. Don't doubt, don't think, just obey. Keep what you really think buried safely away. Maintain this facade and you'll trudge through life without problems. But what's the point of an existence like that? After Asako died, I lost my purpose. But now I found Makina and my life has meaning again. I won't let anyone take that away. The girl has that much value to you? What can I say? Seems like caring about someone can really sneak up on you little by little. From the moment they're born, human beings are given something to protect, namely their own existence. The most precious thing we have, the possession we should treasure above all else, is our life. But through the passage of time, our priorities grow more complicated. Often we find something that matters even more than ourselves. For example, our families. For example, our motherland. And while a few people probably grow up still treasuring their own lives above all else, even they fight to protect the things they need to protect themselves. As human beings live, they naturally find more things to protect. And when they find something more precious than their own lives, something they would throw away anything else to protect, people undergo a change. Even if it leaves them broken or miserable or poor, even at the cost of their dignity and pride, even to the point of foolishness, they struggle for the sake of that something. Keeping it safe becomes their only joy, the only way they can keep themselves whole. And so they toss aside anything that gets in their way, take any measurements necessary and protect it with everything they have. I'm afraid of change, but I want to change. That contradiction is part of me, but I won't let it paralyze me. I'll walk forward step by painful step. JB, you understand. I don't value my life particularly highly. I'm alright with dying whenever and wherever. Hell, it could have happened a dozen times by now on the job. But if I'm going to croak one way or the other, I want a death that has some meaning. I want a reason to look back and say I've lived for something. I played the role for Asako, and now Makina's taking it on for me. People like us can't live any other way, and I think it's probably the only way we can die too.
Oh, she's even crying. You're an idiot, and so was Asako.
You don't have to tell me that. I'm well aware.
I was born stupid and a coward to boot. Nothing to be done about it now. As the conversation comes to a pause, I glance down at the watch on my left wrist.
It's time. I'm leaving now. Better get back to work yourself, JP.
Wait, Yuuji.
What now?
Are you planning to run away dressed like that? With those words, JP retrieves her wallet from her breast pocket and takes out a few 10,000 yen bills from inside. Buy yourself some clothes. Don't kill people wearing a school uniform. While you're at it, pick yourself up a book of etiquette toward women.
Sorry. And thank you, Julia.
Oh, and don't call me Julia, damn it. You only trot that one out at times like these. I know I'm nothing but a convenient woman to you. Don't insult my intelligence. Just go wherever the hell you want, won't you? I don't even give a damn anymore. I don't give a damn, idiot.
I understand. My bad.
Made her cry, huh? Come to think of it, it seems like I'm always bringing JB to tears, what with all the orders I've ignored, not to mention the insubordination and rule breaking. But this time, they must taste much more bitter than ever before. After Asako died and I began to stubbornly refuse any order to kill, it was JB who supported me and protected me. I've repaid her with outright betrayal. You finished? After leaving JB behind and going to the station platform, I find Makina seated on a bench munching away on a cheap meat dumpling lunch.
That looks tasty.
I made sure to get one for you too, Papa.
Yeah, I'll take it.
When I receive the box from Makina and try to untie the strings crossed over the top, I notice that my fingers are shaking.
The hell?
What's wrong, Papa?
No, it's nothing.
If at all possible, I don't want to kill anyone. But if we don't, we'll both die. I knew that from the start, of course, but now that I've declared it outright to JB, I guess the unavoidable reality of the situation finally sank in. I'm not particularly afraid of dying. I'm not that attached to my life. But right now, I have someone who I need to protect at any cost. Failure is no longer an option, and my hand won't stop trembling. I'm sorry, Papa. This is all my fault.
You don't have anything to apologize for. This is how it has to be. I don't know any other way of life. If anything, I'm grateful to you.
Grateful?
You and I might have met each other just in the nick of time. I needed Makina, and Makina needed me. Looking back on it now, this outcome might have been inevitable from the moment I met her. This girl might have been waiting in that school for me, waiting to offer me one final chance. I really, truly am grateful. This is pretty good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah! I don't regret a thing. From a local train at the Mishima Cape, we switch to an express after 2 stops. 4 stations later, we get on another local heading in the opposite direction, only to disembark at the first stop to catch a semi-express. Riding that all the way into Shinjuku, we cut through the maze-like subterranean tunnels towards Shinjuku's Sankom station, where we switch to the subway. Continuing a number of similar feints as I keep a watchful eye out for possible pursuers, we finish a quick shopping trip at a hardware store and pharmacy and finally make our way to a certain neighborhood. I'm freaking tired.
Yeah, guess you would be.
Exhaustion dulls your capacity for judgment. No point in walking ourselves ragged. No matter how many feints you make, it only takes one moment of bad luck to be discovered. You get to a point of diminishing returns after a while. Making ourselves hard to track is about all we can hope for.
Alright then, let's go somewhere we can relax.
That's fine, but where are we going? Discreet lodging facilities are surprisingly easy to find almost anywhere, especially in parts of town frequented by young people. You'll find plenty of fashion hotels. Of course, if you want some tidy looking place right on the main street, you're going to be running up a decent bill fast.
But unless you're bound and determined to stay in some amusement park room with a rotating bed, one of those old-fashioned hotels dating from the pre-war era is just fine. The walls tend to be thin, but that means you can't miss anyone breaking in. For some strange reason, this is the kind of cheap hotel is always, without fail, managed by a half-deaf old bat. It took a good deal of effort just to get across what we wanted, but the old lady didn't even bat an eyelid when two of her customers started fighting loudly. Just the sort of indifference we're looking for. This room kinda stinks of disinfection, almost like the hospital or the school infirmary. In any case, let's double check our luggage and the stuff we bought on the way and then take a breather.
Yeah, gotcha!
I lower my personal baggage and the bread-making machine Amana foisted onto the floor in our little room. Always nice to get a little weight off my shoulders. Guess we'll start by emptying out the backpack, then move on to reviewing the supplementary items we picked up on the way. But before I can begin, a voice comes flooding into the room from the other side of the paper-thin wall.
Whoa!
Well, the place is what it is, so I guess we can't really complain.
Whoa! What the dickens? I hear a strange crack coming from the room next door. They got some sort of weird animal in there.
Sure there's an animal involved, technically speaking.
Oh, bummer! Oh!
Sounds like mooing to me. Must be cattle. They're watching a show about cattle.
Cattle? A genu?
The word's pronounced gnu, actually.
Whoa! Aho! Ugo! Who are you calling an Uggo? You're Uggo, you little punk! I'll crack your crystal key in you!
Whoa, hey there. Don't kick the walls, they're thin.
Ginu! Ijun Ginu!
Who the hell is Ijun supposed to be? This exceptionally boisterous rat motel should make for a good temporary base of operations. For one thing, it's completely incompatible with the gloomy pathos that so often comes with being on the run. And although I'd been planning to set about establishing early warning measures against intruders, it doesn't seem like that's going to be strictly necessary. Once the show in the next room comes to an end, there's almost complete silence. Even the usual noise of the city doesn't reach us here. On top of which, this building seems to have been standing since before the war, judging by its noticeable state of deterioration. The whole structure creaks and groans audibly just from people walking down the avenue outside. So the building itself is basically its own intruder alarm. We've got 3 entrances and exits, front, back and emergency. But outside the back there's a grizzled old Shiba dog tied up that growls and barks every time someone draws near, presumably the old lady's pet. Although it's definitely getting on in years, the animal seems to be a dedicated veteran with a long history of service guarding the back gate. Whether it is lovebirds sneaking around in hopes of a free stay or suspicious characters from the Yakuza offices lingering about, the Shiba watchdog barks persistently at all who approach as if trying to wear out its own throat. That voice possesses the dignity of a proud and trustworthy professional. As for the emergency exits, you have to scratch your head at this one. Even though it's supposed to be the resident's escape route in case of trouble, that thing doesn't open. Someone from the fire department does seem to have stopped by for a lecture, since there's a green light at the end of the hallway indicating the exit, but the door itself just won't budge. Completely befuddled, I circle around the outside of the building to take a look, only to discover a presumably abandoned bicycle rusted to a brilliant red wedge between the emergency exit and the building next door. Doesn't matter how hard you push from the inside, this thing isn't going to open. And if you tried to remove this obstacle from the outside, you'd make a hell of a lot of noise doing it. Not exactly an ideal situation from a safety code standpoint, but this would pose a minor but aggravating problem for any intruders. I decide to leave it as is. Finally, there's the front entrance. The 5 square meter space you come into immediately on entering the building is the manager's office and reception area all in one. The extent of the security here is a half-deaf old lady herself sitting behind her desk watching period dramas and decades-old suspense serials. Not much sign she's even trying to keep an eye on things. A few minutes into my observation, she abruptly pushes herself to her feet with a grunt of whoopsie-daisy, then opens the door of the manager's office and wanders out into the street. I spent 15 minutes wondering what's so important that the woman left her building completely unattended, at which point she returned with a box of cigarettes in her hand. She hobbled down to the local liquor store to get herself some smokes. I think it's safe to conclude her management of the premises is somewhat on the perfunctory side. Well, better than no one at all. Probably. But just to be on the safe side, I decided to install a single motion detection security light I purchased at the hardware store under the eaves at the front of the building. The old lady accepts this easily enough. She's apparently deeply impressed to learn that in our convenient modern world there, a mere 3,200 yen can buy you a light that flips on automatically when people approach. After a thorough secondary check of the surrounding area, including potential nearby sniping spots, I returned to find Makina already quietly asleep on top of her futon. Not surprising that she'd be tired out after all that walking and switching trains we did today, but the girl didn't even bother to change first. She's curled up in her clothes. Hey, Makina, at least get undressed before you go to sleep.
Take the clothes off for me, Amane.
Amane's not here.
Then you do it, Papa.
What a pain in the ass. Well, maybe it's not that big a deal under the circumstances. If anything, it is safer than need to pull her clothes on in a panic in the event of a raid. Guess we can just go to bed like this for today. Come on, Makina, move over a little. I can't get in.
Yeah, you're gonna sleep with me?
Don't say no, kid. Given the layout of this room, it's more convenient if we sleep in one space.
Okay, no.
From now on, we'll be living every day listening as the enemy's footsteps approach from behind, with no guarantee we'll ever even be alive tomorrow. The easy, peaceful life we enjoyed only a few days ago is over now. Why are they so determined to torment this girl? My head hurts. My damn head really hurts. And we shall see what happened at Ichigaya in the next episode. Oh, there's a new person, so I'll have to think of a new voice for then. Well, that's all for this time, so until next episode, take care.